Alright, so this is going to be a magical girl raising project tier list video. I've got the season 1 characters here from the first volume of the light novel, thanks to whoever made the template for this. I recently have been on the magical girl craze. I ended up rewatching and finishing Madoka Magica and watched Rebellion and am in the process of watching Magia Record. And I was like, wasn't there another Magical Girl series that was kind of dark that I ended up watching all those years back around the same time? And lo and behold, it was Magical Girl Racing Project. Yeah, I did watch the anime originally a few years back, but I decided to purchase and read the light novel this time around, just because I like reading, and I've certainly gained an appreciation for light novels rather than their anime adaptations for certain series. And not to, disregard the anime series because it does do its own things, which I'll probably talk about in this tier list that I do like. But yeah, Magical Girl Racing Project, if you don't know, it's I don't know if it was made in response to or just inspired by Madoka Magica and maybe Magical Girl Site. I don't know, but it's basically it's a death battle between these magical girls. These magical girls have one specific ability to their name, and it's basically, number one victory royale. Yeah, magical girls were about to get down. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna rank them. I'm going to assume you know about season 1 of Magical Girl Racing Project if you're watching this. So let's just go ahead and start. We're starting with Calamity Mary, who I don't like. I just don't like. The design is kind of okay. I mean, she herself is a bad person, and there's a certain line to tread. When it comes to characters that are just bad people, and you can make them appealing in some ways. And I just don't think Calamity Mary is that type of appealing character. So honestly, she's probably my least favorite magical girl out of the bunch. Not that she, in concept is bad. You kind of do need that type of character in a story like this, and I can understand what they were going for. The cowboy motif is interesting, I suppose, and her ability to imbue her weapons that she got off of the black market. I say right, she had a bunch of guns. That's so nice and stuff. I will say that in the novel, I wasn't really too impressed with the anime version of it. The anime's fight scenes were okay. You could tell they wanted to go wild. They just didn't have the time to do so, or maybe the budget. I'm not sure, what goes into the anime production, but at least in the novel, the fight with Calamity Mary and the duo of Top Speed and Ripple is really fun to read, and ends in a personally satisfying way, and I think that's the best that she offers. I will say that I do like that little quirk that she has where she's a fan of the classic magical girls like Sailor Moon, and she does the whole chant and dance when she does transform. I wish we got a little more of that to her. We kind of just got oh, she abused her child and husband, and man, she wants to abuse others as her in her position as a magical girl, and there was more that could have been explored. But in terms of her role as a function to the story, she was alright. Next is Cranberry. Cranberry is going to go in. I'm going to say S, actually. Cranberry is interesting because she's the only magical girl in this group that we don't know the human form of in both the anime and the light novel. She's from originally the Magical Kingdom, which means she was kind of partially responsible for instigating this whole thing. I like her. Well, let me say her full name: Musician of the Forest, Cranberry. I like her Bloody Rose, Poisonous Rose or Venomous Rose. I don't know how everyone put that. Her whole, kind of like druid, but also demon queen esque type of vibe. The way she just kind of sits and bides her time at the beginning of the story, you feel that little bit of mystery, or maybe you think she's just like, oh, she's a fun bard, always playing music in the magical girl chat room and not really talking. She's kind of like that pretty mysterious older sister, and the story does mention that her magical girl appearance is older than everyone else's by a fair margin. Right, she's in like her mid 20s in magical girls, while the others are between the ages of, was it 10 to 19, in their magical girl appearance. Um, but Cranberry's interesting because she functions as an antagonist, or the primary antagonist, in the way that she's responsible for all the events that end up happening, but a secondary antagonist in what her individual actions portray, right? So she's from the Magical Kingdom. She twisted the Magical Girl selection process in order to make it a battle royale to suit her, or rather to sate her own bloodlust. And, she's fought Winter Prison and Swim Swim in the gang, you know, just that kind of bloodlust. You don't expect it from someone like her, or with her appearance. You kind of expect like a slow, methodical, type of approach. But I kind of like that dichotomy, and her ability to manipulate sound is awesome. I love characters who do that, and she uses it in a really brutal way, which is really cool. So Cranberry, cool name, and I like Cranberry. It's cute, but like has a sick twist to it, I guess you can say. Cranberry with all the blood drenched roses and everything. Yeah, I don't know. She's certainly interesting, and I'll get to it in a bit. But the way she exits the story is kind of the cherry on top for me. Fav, I mean, come on, this little bastard. What can I say? So he's also from the Magical Kingdom. He's a familiar to Cranberry, and he just got tired of his job as a familiar, so he agreed to go along with Cranberry and trick the Magical Kingdom into thinking they were doing everything correct. But no, he just did this because he was like bored and he wanted to be entertained, and his pun little verbal tick is certainly a verbal tick. I mean, he serves his role, and when he's gone, you're happy. What can I say? F for 5, right? Hardcore Alice is an S. The design of that, like, monochrome Alice in Wonderland, baggy eyes, sickly, like, kind of like humbling around because she doesn't know how to carry herself, is really, really, really cool. In the anime, if I recall, and again, I watched the anime years ago, but I think she had like an organ in her theme when she was first introduced, and it really left an impression on me. Her whole regeneration thing, I wish it got used a little bit more, but I can understand why it didn't, you know what I mean? And as a foil to Snow White, or rather, she herself, Akko, the girl behind Hardcore Alice, the fact that she's kind of like mirroring Snow White, but adding her own personality into her magical girl design, because I don't know if you all realize, but all these girls designed their own magical girl appearances, so you can kind of derive a bit of their characters from their appearances, which is neat. But she matches Snow White well, and also just stands out, right? Like all of these, you saw you got like Ripple with the dark hair, but all of these girls are colorful and bright, and she's just a stark contrast. And I was annoyed when swim did her thing, but it was smart on how Minael and Swim took care of that. Hardcore Alice is just great, and she tries her best to protect Snow White with the rabbit's foot, and there's nothing bad about her. She's precious, and I like how the story starts off with her and Snow White meeting with the whole house keys thing, and with the novel, you get a lot more introspection in all the characters' viewpoints. Um, and it was nice to see Akko's, or rather Hardcore Alice's, viewpoint when it came to that introduction. So I really do like her a lot. La Pucelle is an A. Her design makes perfect sense. Of course, so with his whole, I'm a magical girl because I want to battle. Of course, he would be a knight, a dragon knight. And of course, as a teenage boy, he's going to go for the big and shapely woman for his design. This is like, it's kind of genius when you think about it. And she looks cool, La Pucelle. The whole dragon knight thing. And you kind of get some of that magical girl energy somehow, even with that type of design. One thing, and this is gonna kind of this is gonna kind of sound a bit odd, but I have two a bit odd things to say about her. One, her ability is to make her sword, the sword that she wields under this dragon knight disguise as La Pucelle. Her ability is to make it as big as she wants in certain situations. There's a metaphor there, and I don't need to go further, but it is quite funny. And second, her death is interesting to me. Cranberry is the culprit. Cranberry, in that phase of the story, is looking for strong opponents to sate her bloodthirst. And La Pucelle is kind of one of the contenders. And in the anime, you get a whole fight scene. Like Cranberry and La Pucelle at the port, and I'm pretty sure, like, Cranberry throws La Pucelle into, like, a fright crate, and she gets all bloody, and then So is detransformed and thrown in front of a truck. In the novel, it just ends with them agreeing to duel and readying themselves. Like, the passage just ends, and then it jump cuts to So already being dead. Like, Snow White's perspective, So is dead, there's a funeral, how Snow White processed it. It's like after everything has already passed. And something about how that was written, maybe it was because I was expecting it to be like the anime, but something about how that was written gave me chills. So La Pucelle gets a bump up to A simply because of that, which is kind of morbid, but overall a cool design. And, sucks that their budding romance with Snow White was cut off so early. Next we have Magicaloid 44. This is a curious little critter. We actually learn about them a little more in the anime. Apparently they weren't really part of, or rather they weren't playing the mobile game Magical Girl Racing Project that gets these girls transformed into their magical girl forms. They were just handed the phone by a friend and then ended up being the victim. But the design of the girl ended up suiting the personality. In the novel, she doesn't really do much. She kind of sucks up to Calamity Mary, pulls an item out of her bag, and then gets killed by a Hardcore Alice, which is also the same in the anime. But I think her design is neat. I mean, she gets a B just because I like her design. And as a stepping stone for, both Calamity Mary and Hardcore Alice, I can appreciate, Magicaloid for sure. Nemerin is one of the cutest designs. Like, this design appeals to me so much in so many ways, and she dies first. So unfortunate. We don't really know why, or much about Nemerin. We know she's friendly with everyone. We know she doesn't actually help people out in the field, but rather visits their dreams. And we know she wasn't too concerned with the whole gathering of the magical candies, and that's why she was axed first, because she didn't meet her quota. Or rather, she was last place, and there she went. So, she's a story element that makes the plot go forward, but I like her vibe. She's very cute, and the author also said that they really liked Nemerin in the afterword, so you know what? I can respect. Next are the Twin Peaky Angels, Uniel and Minael. Uniel is the one that transforms into an animal. Minael is the one that transforms into objects. A clever concept for a duo. They both got one wings, and they're both like small angels with chatterbox halos because they never stop yapping. but I don't particularly, find them too crazy or anything like that. They serve their purpose. When Uniel dies and Menael gets a little more unhinged, it is pretty neat. But overall they don't do much. I mean, Uniel gets crushed by Winter Prison, and then Menael gets like gored by Cranberry in the end. But Menael does get a little more credit for contributing, unfortunately, to the death of Hardcore Alice by mimicking her bunny plushie. So Menael is a little better than Uniel, but overall, they're right. Um, you know. Next is Ripple. Ripple is probably an A, I would say. I'm gonna have to bump that up to an S because you get a lot of Ripple's perspective in the novel, more so than I expected, and I wasn't complaining about that. First of all, Ninja Magical Girl, cute. I mean, cute and cool. What can you say? I like how she learns how to twist her ability to her advantage. So her ability is to whatever she throws as a shuriken, it will always hit its target. So closed-minded people or myself, when I was first processing her abilities, like, oh, she's only limited to throwing shurikens and they hit her target. And I think Ripple was like that in the beginning of the novel too. But later on during the fight with Calamity Mary, and even a little bit before that, you get hints of like what her ability can actually do. When she's working with top speed and cleaning up all the junk before the Calamity Mary fight, you see her storing all these metal stuffs, things, and like what is she doing? Like what is the purpose here? Lo and behold, anything she throws that she considers a shuriken can be considered a shuriken by her ability. It might have to be metal. I don't really know the true extent there, but regardless, she goes ahead and throws fire doors, like steel fire doors, at Calamity Mary during the fight, which helps her obtain the victory. And there's something real clever with like the glass and shurikens that she throws up in the air. Pretty neat. Ripple's perspective, I think, is probably the consistently most fun throughout. She's annoyed with everything, and you can tell she's like a super tsundere with top speed and becoming friends with her. But it's endearing. I will say it is very funny how much she clicks her tongue or tisks or however the novel wants to describe it. You could take a shot every time the novel describes her clicking or tisking in annoyance with her tongue, and you'd be dead drunk. You'd be gone. Your liver's gone because she does that every 2 seconds. I think there was a scene where she did like 5 or 7 times. It was hilarious, but I kind of like that little quirk. It's funny, You get used to it, and almost in a way, when she does it towards top speed, you kind of understand it to be a form of like endearment or acknowledgement. Kind of that's like her own way of saying, yeah, okay, I'm fine, we can do this, despite her thinly veiled annoyance. Ripple's great. I like her name as well. I think the fact that she wasn't afraid to go against Swim after what she did is pretty great. And in the end of the story, when her and Snow White are the only two survivors, the fact that she loses her arm and gets an eye patch and wears top speed's cape, like her design gets an upgrade. I wish we had an art of that in the novel, but maybe in the next few novels, maybe we'll see a return for her or something. But for now, Ripple's great. She's very entertaining to read. Her design is pretty neat, and she survives, and that means there's a lot for her to do and a lot of time for her to develop. And it was just, honestly, it was pretty great. Ruler gets an A for me. Now this is probably an odd pick to put an A, right? Ruler is quite annoying. She thinks way too highly of herself. She looks down on her little group, the Twin Peaks Angels, Swim, and Tama. And the whole second chapter, I believe, is like dedicated to that group and just her mindset in life and everything. She hates Calamity Mary though, so that gets big points from me. Okay, no, it's not just that, but it might contribute. But Ruler, I actually really like her design. Something about that purple going with like her king-ish attire is pretty neat, and she specifically designed herself that way, and I think that adds to her character so well because she she is so blatantly overconfident in everything that she does that seeing her perspective in the second chapter of the novel was like, I don't know how to put it. It was unlike anything else I've seen, right, between the anime and the novel. Like, I enjoyed that entire chapter so much because it was literally the entire build up to her death, betrayed by Swim Swim, of course. Um, I like the fact that even though she's named herself ruler and she thinks of herself as above everyone, she's limited by the technicalities of her ability, which she can make anyone in front of her do a command, but they can't be 15 feet away, and she has to stand perfectly still, and they need to make eye contact, and all those little things. Like, it's that type of meticulous nature that combats her own meticulous nature, and I find that really entertaining. And when she gets her comeuppance from Swim Swim and the gang, it's like perfect. The blatant overconfidence just to, yeah, you got karma coming to you, and I don't know, just that entire dynamic. I will say, reading the novel for boosted ruler quite high, she was probably a C or D. But I don't know, she's just entertaining as a character for what she does in the time that she's alive. Sister Nana, okay, she's okay. I mean, her design is like a nun. The crosses in her eyes are pretty neat. I mean, she loves Winter Prison, and she can boost the power of those she loves. Her role in the story is attempting to gather people to side her with her and Winter Prison. Um, to stop this darn game, and we can work together. But you can tell, like, she's not really doing it out of the goodness of her heart, and the novel mentions that right at the end for her as well. Um, and like the whole struggles she had with how she presented herself or how she looked like, that's somewhat relatable in a way, but I don't know. She's never really struck a chord with me in any particular way. Um, her role in the story is just kind of like to maybe be like the sweet girl who turns on people, but it never really gets acted upon because Winter Prison dies too early, and then you know Sister Nana takes her life after that out of her resulting despair. There's a bit of internal conflict that's explored within the dialogue, or not dialogue, but text right up to the action that she takes. But she's all right. And while I'm talking about her, I'm gonna talk about Winter Prison. Winter Prison is slightly better. Um, like Winter Prison is, kind of like that suave, androgynous, cool girl, and she's together with Sister Nana, and they make her, the duo. I feel like if Sister Nana died first, Winter Prison could have been a much better character. I don't know if that makes sense, but if like, the underlying tones of what they were trying to go for, I think the knight that failed to protect his master could have not only mirrored La Pucelle when La Pucelle fell for Ruler's ambush, but could have just been explored in a way where Winter Prison could have done maybe more with Cranberry. Um, you know, Winter Prison's ability to make walls around herself is pretty interesting. I feel like her silhouette with that long, bulky cloak kind of mimics her ability as well as her closed off nature. So that's kind of neat. But went to prison. She's alright. I do like how she kills one of the Peaky Angels because it prompts Minayo's development a little bit for what we do get. She's alright. All of these are like really good. These last four. I'm gonna put these like the best ones in S, and then I'm gonna go put one SS. Snow White's an S. I mean, Survivor with Ripple sees a lot that sees one of the ones where we get a lot of her perspective because he's on the cover of the book and is kind of the main character. I think her ability is really unique for like a main magical girl. She's not a combatant at all. She doesn't fight at all in the series. Not once. She literally wins by doing nothing, which is kind of funny. She pulled a Luigi. But Snow White, she has the ability to hear the thoughts of those in need, which is a really internal ability and kind of explores her psyche a lot, especially when La Pucelle and Hardcore Alice, pass when they do. You can tell that she's struggling with the whole situation of this death battle between the magical girls. And I like that the protagonist in this takes a backseat to the action because she's allowed to be a victim of the circumstances rather than a participant. She doesn't kill anyone once. All she does is try her best to help the citizens of N City as a magical girl, and I actually find that really respectable. She doesn't get into a single conflict, and that's honestly pretty great. Her design, of course, evokes the standard magical girl fare, the pink hair, the flowers, the frills, the white. It's honestly solid design, solid protagonist. I really, really enjoyed her, and I'm glad that seemingly at the end of book one, she's kind of going a little bit against to what the Magical Kingdom wants from her, and is deciding to be more proactive in what she does. Apparently, she started fighting like terrorist groups in Russia and China, and like is kind of like just riding on planes to get to places and doing her own thing. So Koyuki, Snow White. Oh, I just realized Koyuki is small snow, and that's what her name means in Japanese, and she's Snow White. That's pretty neat. But yeah, she's a great protagonist for the situation that she's in, and a good take on what a protagonist in that situation could be like. So I really do enjoy her. Swim. You love to hate her. You love to hate Swim. I love to hate Swim. Really, honestly. Yeah, Swim is the perfect antagonist because you expect Ruler, right? You expect Cranberry. Swim just becomes a menace in so many ways. She has the highest kill count. She's taking care of Ruler. She's taking care of Winter Prison. She's taking care of Top Speed. And she's taking care of Tama. So that's four for Swim. Her name is Goofy. Her appearance is goofy. But then you realize Swim's a young girl. She's I'm pretty sure an elementary schooler, right? And her kind of clashing outfit with the whole the school bathing suit, and then the dark adornments with the wings and the weapon that she gets later on and everything like that. That kind of clash is interesting. You can tell that Swim is in a very impressionable stage of her life because everything that she does is because of Ruler. Her killing Ruler is because of Ruler, and I think that's pretty interesting, right? She takes everything that Ruler says at face value because she can't read that well. So she absorbs everything from Ruler, all of Ruler's twisted teachings, in such a way that she doesn't forget anything. And then over throws and kills Ruler to become like Ruler, because Ruler is an obstacle to becoming like Ruler. Like, once you realize her thought process, a lot of the things that she does make a lot more sense. To her, she's just doing what she's told. Now, it doesn't particularly excuse the actions that she does across, the the course of the series, and she does some diabolical things. But she's so interesting, and her design is so interesting. Like, you somehow have a swimmer mixed in with like a little devil, mixed in with the frills of a magical girl, like with her curls in the hair, and just like the coloration of white and pink kind of mirrors Snow White a little bit, where like they take things that are told to them completely different ways. Snow White takes the stuff that she knows from magical girl shows and manga and anime that she's watched over her life, and Swim takes everything that from Ruler, and how they've both been affected by what they've grown up with so far, into how they act as magical girls. This is really, really interesting. What When I watched the anime, right, I could tell Swim was diabolical. When she took care of Hardcore Alice, I was like mad. What really snapped the wire for me and made me love to hate her is when she killed Tama. Because you'll soon see, I really like Tama. But I'll get there. Swim killing Tama in that instantaneous one slice of decapitation was just brutal, and I was questioning for those few seconds, why the heck did Swim do that after Tama saved her life and killed Cranberry? And then she repeats something that Ruler said to her, and you're just hit with that whiplash of course, every time she does something, she's just been doing what she's told. She's an impressionable young girl who is following what she's been told. And something about how her personality is, but maybe it's her home situation. We never really get too into Swim's thoughts or situation. Her thoughts definitely, but her situation not so much. But something just about how she was raised or how she is as a person, a young impressionable kid, as a magical girl, just makes her function that way, and I find that really interesting. Tama, as much as I want to put her in S, there's a lot in S, so I will put her in A, bordering S, for no reason, because I just really like Tama. I don't know what it is. She's goofy. She has a dumb design. She herself is dumb. She kind of just lives by the skin of her pants, and then kills the strongest magical girl, Cranberry, just because she was a little bit smart and Cranberry was a little bit too cocky, or rather hesitated when she was about to kill Swim. So I feel like Tama she's not a joke character. She's a little bit pathetic as a person, but it's kind of making her endearing, and like you want to. I mean, she's a dog girl. You want to give this dog some pats and make them feel better, or this dog wants to snuggle up against you. Tama is a good support to Ruler because she is someone who just snuggles up to the master. And Tama's ability is one of my favorites. It's so specific. She can just create hole in the wall, just like that, by digging a little scratch and you're done. And that's how Cranberry was done in. I don't know what it is about Tama. I think her hair is a little more red in the anime. But she was done dirty right at the end. She literally could have survived if Swim was not Swim. But Tama's great. Lastly is Top Speed S. I mean, her whole dynamic with Ripple is so good, and I like how she's spunky and like a former delinquent trying to reshape her life. And you're always wondering, what's this with her in 6 months? She says 6 months almost as much as Ripple clicks her tongue in annoyance. and then you realize he's expecting a child, and then when Swim Swim kills her, you're just in as much despair as Ripple, and you're like, oh no. It's just so tragic. Top Speed is great. I love her super fast broom. I love her attitude. I love how her insistence on staying as Ripple's partner, and you can tell she's trying to protect Ripple because Calamity Mary and Ruler both volunteered on multiple occasions to train new magical girls, but it was Top Speed who reserved the next magical girl because she knew those two were up to no good. And you could tell she was like a real good person trying to do good in her life. And like they won against Calamity Mary, and then Swim just Swim, you love to hate her, right? But Top Speed, I love her huge braids. I love her witch aesthetic. I love her jet broom. Everything is great about her. There's like I have no faults with her, and she is one of the most tragic character deaths because it's just she was rebuilding her life, and she was trying to help Ripple rebuild hers, and it just all spun out of control, and you hate to see it, man. You really do. Now, I guess I reorder this. These three are the same. I'm gonna bump you, Nemerin, up a bit. You're at the top of A. I actually like Ruler a bit more than La Pucelle. Let's see. Top Speed is like Top Speed might be top of S. I'm gonna put 2 in SS. You're gonna be here. Ripple's SS. Let's see. Cranberry is maybe bottom of S. Swim is really interesting. Now, do I put Swim or Top Speed? I have to put Swim. She's just too interesting to look at. Rather too interesting to understand in what she does and look at her actions, and it's just, yeah, you love to hate her so much that she's an SS. Ripple is just great. Top Speed or Snow White? I'm gonna put Snow White, then Top Speed, and then Hardcore Alice Cranberry. This seems about right. So this is my tier list for season 1 of Magical Girl Raising Project. If you listen to my yapping for this long, thanks for sticking around. I'm sure my opinions are quite odd, but alas, here they are. I actually already started reading Volume 2 a little bit, and it seems to be taking a little bit of a different approach. I'm at the beginning of Chapter 1. I've only met Magical Daisy and Petrika, who seems to have like a cooking motif. Magical Daisy just vaporizes things, which is funny. But I'm going to be interested to see if Snow White and Ripple return. I would like them to return at some point, but it is called Magical Girl Raising Project Restart, and it goes on for 2 volumes. It seems to be that these next sets of volumes is what? Restart, Limited, Joker, Aces, Black, I think, are those other series. They seem to be self-contained, just with the same overarching magical kingdom plot, you know. But if Ripple and Snow White do return, I'll be interested to see how they develop. And I gotta say, good art from the artist. You designed some banger characters. Good writing from the author. You wrote some pretty interesting characters. I love this chibi style. I love seeing how everyone interacted. It was a good read. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Magical Girl Raising Project Restart goes forward from here. I'll be doing one of these for each season of Girls, so you can expect more of these. I'm not sure if I'll upload this as its own singular thing. It is nearing 40 minutes, or do a one big mega video with all of them in one. How do I say? One big tier list video, maybe in one big tier list at the end. We'll see. I don't know. If this is uploaded by itself, I hope you enjoyed, and I don't know. Go Magical Girls. Woo.